Hi all, welcome to my channel, welcome to my world. This is the world of Wayne. If the shirt wasn't a giveaway, look, check out this shirt. Oh my god. Today, I'm going to be doing the next 5 stages of the Fanhome release of Build Star Wars Millennium Falcon.
To make 0.5 past light speed, it may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
So today we're going to be doing stages 7 to 10, and by the look of the packs which I've got laid out here, we're going to be doing lots of sprue and glue. I think we're going to be cutting some things from sprue, and we're actually going to be putting our first details onto some of the items that we've got here. Now, the detail in the Falcon, which is actually sitting over there, a lot of it is on sprues, so you are going to need to get yourself a really good sprue cutter. I've got one like this. These are in my Amazon store as well. The links are up there for all of my links, but especially the Amazon store, you'll be able to get yourself a nice pair of sprue cutters. Just so you know, one of the most asked questions that I get on the channel is what glue I use. I use Glue It. Now this is from the range stores in the UK, but this is just the CA glue. So another alternative to that, if you can't get this, is something like Loctite, but that's going to be your friend throughout this build. Now if you want to get this build for yourself, I've put a link down here to the Fanhome website, and there's also a QR code on the screen there which you can scan. Now take you to the Fanhome website and let them know that you come from the World of Wayne channel. But let's get on with this. Without further ado, let's get cracking. So here's stage 7 here. Let's see what we're actually going to be doing. So flick through the magazine. And as you can see, we're actually going to be working on the area that I think is for the holographic table and stuff like that. So that's looking just like that. We are going to need a sanding stick as well when we're taking these off the sprues. I've got one of them there. And just gluing this together. And then they give you some optional techniques for painting if you want to weather the seats, and just some other details that you can paint if you want to paint details onto that console that we saw in the last pack. But that is looking just like that. So here's stage 7 pack. Let's get this open. As you can see, we've got a sprue in here. And we have got the floor of the Millennium Falcon here, the internal floor. So the first bit I need, let's just put all of these parts just to one side, is on the sprue, this area just here. So I am cutting that off, so you use the flat side of the sprue cutters and put them really tight against the detail and cut them off. So 1, 2, and 3. And then if you want to tidy up those edges here, this is where you'll use your sanding stick and just sand that to a nice smooth finish. Just like that. Perfect. Now we're going to be making some bunk cushions. Now there's 2 of these that we're going to be sort of mirroring and then putting together like this with cushions inside. And then basically, because we're doing 2 together, we have got 2 rows of sprues of these details, which are basically the cushions that I need to cut off as well. So I'm just going to get one side off first. Again, when we're cutting these off, just take off any burrs that we've got on the side. Now I've got my glue here, which I can actually apply with a brush, and I'm just going to put them into the 4 holes just onto this detail here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you haven't got something like this, then just squeeze the glue into a tray and then use something like a cocktail stick here just to dot those into the holes. You don't need to swamp it in glue, but this is just then going to go into these holes here. Hold it in. And what I'm going to do to increase time, I'm going to do the one on this side as well. Now the way these are laid out, we've got 2 which have got a slight curve on them, like this. They're going to go either side there. And then we've got 1 which is pretty straight. That's going to be joining this one down here. So what I'll do is I'll put them in this side first. They're going to go kind of like this on that side. And then we'll have 1 just going into the other side here. Let's get these in. And it should be following the contour of that cushion going around like that. And then that's the one going in on that side. Do the same just for the one that we've got on this side here. And that's 1 done like that. Now as you can see, this one overlaps there, but that overlap is going to obviously go into the opposite side on this one here when we do the same on that, because it is exactly the same cushions. Let's get these off. And there you go, that's that one done as well. And then it's just going to be a case of pushing these together like that to make one whole bed unit like this. So again, I'm going to be putting some glue in here. And if you've done it right, all of those cushions should be spaced out evenly in the inside, as you can see there. I'm then going to be taking this part, which is the base of the seat, and putting the cushions on top of that. So as a dry fit, this is going to be going in just like that. So I want to glue this down as well. And again, you don't have to swamp this in glue. I'm just going to dot it round like this. That's going to be more than enough to hold that into place. Now, I'll put these two parts to one side. All of this we're not actually using in this stage, so I'm going to put that to one side, and I'm going to bring over the cockpit. Because if you remember in the first stage, we hadn't actually put any glue on these chairs or anything like that. So I am now in a position to actually glue all of this stuff in. And again, you don't need too much glue. It's just a case of dropping glue on there and putting the chairs in. And whatever I do on one side, I'm just going to do on the other side. So I had already glued in the sides here. The only thing I hadn't glued in was all of these levers, which I'm about to just glue in the last one here. Making sure that they're straight. Perfect. So when the cockpit is all glued in, it should look just like that. I can now just put some tabs just at the back here with a little bit of glue on both sides, so I can now join this to the back section or the bulkhead of the cockpit there. That's now one unit, and that's all there is to do in that stage. So in stage 8 here, here's the magazine. Let's have a flick through. What we're going to be doing, we are actually going to now start working on the control panel here. So we've got a control panel with lots of really tiny details that we're going to be putting in. Turn that over, cutting lots of sprues off, and we are adding to this area where the sofa is, where the holographic board's going to be. So quite a few little tiny details for this. Now with the tiny details, I do use these magnifying glasses. They are invaluable. So this is stage 8. Check out some of the details on the sprues we've got here. We've got this one. We've got this one here. We have got the control panel, which I just mentioned, looking like that. And we've got these two items as well. Now they do provide a guide to painting this control panel as well if you wanted to. But what I'm going to do is take these two details I've got on here off the sprue. So I also need to cut off this instrument panel that I got here. And this panel is just going to go into the indent that we see there. So if I, again, do a dry fit, it's going to go in like that. So I'm going to glue that in. Now, I probably will follow the instructions and I will touch this up with some paint afterwards. But I just want to show you the assembly first. I think in the next stage, I'll show you where I am with just touching up with the paint. Again, following the instructions to what they advise. Now I need to cut off these 3 little tiny sections from the sprue. Tweezers are your friend here. Don't press too hard with them. Just enough to hold it. So you can get that in. So that's the first one in. And then we've got these 2 little control levers here. They're going to be going into these 2 holes just here and here. Again, if you use tweezers, very hard to show you. I'm just brushing the base of this onto the tweezers. And there we go. That's both of those in place. Now, even though I said I'm going to do some things afterwards, some things I'm going to do now. To actually bring out the lines in this, we can actually use a wash. So, I'm going to show you how to wash. Now, to do a good wash, I've just got some water in here. I'm going to add some black Vallejo paint. And I've got a brush here. And I'm just going to be brushing this onto every single crevice that I can see. As you can see there. Cover the whole floor because we are going to be blotting this off. I should really be doing this on a mat. Because I'm going to get my surface dirty, which I don't want to do. I think that'll be good. As you can see, I've covered the whole thing. Now put that to one side. You don't want to wipe that off straight away. Now I'm just blotting this off. And now the floor has got this sort of look. Looks a lot better now. Excellent. Put that to one side. We're going to be bringing over this pack from the last pack. And they're asking us to dry brush some grey in here. I'm going to show you how to do that quickly. We've got some Vallejo light grey here. Just pouring some of that in there. And this is really easy to do. It's just a case of getting your brush, swamping it in paint, then getting a rag, drying it off on the rag, and then using the dry brush just to colour in the details here. Like this. You don't want to completely smother this in paint, just have the idea that this is a different colour to what we're just putting on the detail here. But that looks like that. Now I want to take off these large parts of the seat which are on the sprue here. And I also need the small cushions here. And I'm going to be putting this all around the rear of the cushions of the base of this chair. So it's just a case of picking a large one first and putting that into the first position just there. And then doing a small cushion and doing that next to it. And continuing that until I've done them all the way around. And when that's done, it should look like that. That's how it should look from the other side. So I'm going back to this section here. I know I'm moving around the instructions a bit, but I want to wait for things to dry. I'm just going to be putting the bed that we created here. Just picking what side's going to be the best to visually look at. Probably this side. That's going to go in there. And then I do have this top to go on just over the top here, which is just going to clip in to these 2 points here, which you can glue in if you want, but be honest with you, that's not moving. So that's in place. Now, to remember this section that I cut off here, they do want us to paint this slightly, so I'm just going to get some white paint. And this time I'm using Vallejo Cold White, and I'm just going to be painting the ends of this section just here. So I use these tweezers on this, which is going to hold it for me while I'm painting these ends up. So that's all done. Going to leave that to dry. Now eventually that's going to go into this space just here. I'm not going to put that in until it's dried, so I'm going to leave it on there at the moment. But I am going to be putting this now onto the floor that we were creating. It's actually just going to go right in the corner just here. But we're only going to fit that in temporarily, so I'm only going to use 2 of the screws that came in pack 7. And there you go, that's just temporarily held that into place there. And now I can bring over what we created, what we finished. We've got 3 holes in here. Now this is basically going to be going into the holes just below. Just going to line that up. And it sits in just like that. Now in the instructions it does say about painting the back of these chairs just here. Because you do see this side. You don't actually see the ones below there. Now they're actually using a light grey on these. So I can probably use the light grey that I've just been using actually. Just to show what you can actually see. Now everything I'm doing here is optional. It does tell you in the instructions it's optional. But I have painted those grey just behind there. You're not really going to see it, to be honest with you. But that is all there is to do in that stage. Remembering I still need to attach this. I'm not going to do that until that's dry. So in stage 9 that we got here, let's see what we're doing. Flick through the magazine. And we've got quite a few parts to go in here. Looks like we've got a battery box as well. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting some light block. We're going to put some batteries in first. We're going to be able to test the cockpit. We're going to be putting some light block just into these sections just here. Mount the cockpit, then seal this in this unit here. We're then going to be detailing the passenger tube with these parts here, just around the tube section, as you can see, just there. So this is stage 9 here. Let's get this open. Lots of parts in here. But before we look at those, I'm going to get some batteries into the battery box. So the first thing I'll do is put some batteries in the battery box. Put that back together, screw this down. Bring over the cockpit, and all I can do, make sure this is in the off position there, plug this in. And then if I turn the lights down, you'll be able to see how that looks. Pretty cool, huh? Absolutely love it. Okay, now I've got 2 light blocking stickers here, which I'm going to be needing for the actual tube which holds the cockpit. So this is the tube here, and as you remember, this actually just goes together kind of like that. Now when we actually put these on, they're going to be going behind this section just here, but they are going to need a cutout just for these lugs here. Lie this onto where it's going to be and get my scalpel. I'll be able to know where I'm cutting this, around about there. And then when it's up, it needs to be around about there. So I will cut this out here. And I'll quickly give that a test fit just to see if that's going to work. That's going to work perfectly. And just do the same on the other side. And then I can use this one as a template for this one here. It's just then a case of putting this light block into place. So that's one side. And I'll just do the same on the other side. And that's perfect. Excellent. Now we're going to be assembling this whole thing together. What they want us to do is actually just put this all together to show you exactly how this looks with the lights on in the cockpit. So once again, I can connect this back up again in here. Put the cockpit where it goes in here. Put the cover over the top here. You heard that click in like that. Put these 2 parts together here. Once again, just match up the tabs that we've got in the inside here to the tabs on the outside. So that's in like that. This then can slip over the top just like that. I'll put the bottom section on as well, and that's how that looks. And then again, if I turn the light out and operate the lights, you can now see what it looks like inside the cockpit there. Excellent. So in the last pack we had these plant-on details. We're actually going to start putting some of these just onto this tube section now. So the first detail I need is this one just here. Let's cut that off that sprue. I can now just take this apart. And I'm going to be gluing these details into place. So the first detail, I'm just going to be gluing the pegs underneath here. I'm holding it with my tweezers so I don't get my fingers all gluey. And that one's going this way round into these 2 points just here. Just like that. The next one is number 2. Got that here. And that one goes in just like that there. Number 3 is this one just here. And that's going to be going into the 2 holes that we got just on top there. And just ensure that's actually seated all the way in there. So on the top details, we've put 1, 2, 3 details into place. So in the bottom section now, this one here, I want this detail, detail 8. That's just going into this indent that we can just see here. Perfect. Detail 11, which is this bottom one here. Just going to put some glue just on the end here, because that's going to fit into this hole. And the other side is just going to go along that edge just like that. Then I need this detail at the top here. I think this is detail 7. That's just going to go underneath this section just there, just like that. Detail 10, which is another pipe. It's just going to go into that hole just there and follow this pipe so that they are parallel to each other. Only a couple more details left now. We've got this other pipe here. That's going into this hole at the top. I've already got some glue in here. So it's going off in that direction. Number 6, which is this one at the top. I've done this in the wrong order, as you can see. Made life a little bit hard for myself. Not an issue though, because this just slides underneath this pipe. Then I can put that back down. Part 4, which is a square at the bottom. Bit of glue just on there. Just a spot. I use my tweezers to help here. That goes on just there. And then part 5, which is this little tiny detail here, is just going to go on top of that one that I just put in. Going to use my tweezers to help me. And that looks just like that. Now that's everything on those sprues, and that's pretty much how we're going to be putting the details onto the Falcon. But that is all there is to do in that stage. So that leads us on to stage 10. Here's the instructions for that. Let's have a flick through. And this time we have got some more bits of frame by the look of it. Let's see what we're actually doing. We're actually going to create one of the internal corridor bulkheads here. So it's looking just like that. So by the end of it, we're actually going to be able to put that into this section that we created earlier. That's going to look good. So let's do that now. Now here's the stage 10 parts, but I don't actually need any of this, so I can just leave this to one side. What I do need is this bracket here, which came in the last stage, and I also need all of these little bits here, which I'm going to need to break off the sprue. Once again, if we've got any burrs on the side, we do need to get them off with a sanding stick here. And then it's just going to be a case of gluing these into the inside of this structure, just like that there. So I'm going to do this and get these all the way around. Let's come back and see that completed. And there we go. That's that little bulkhead completed. Now we've got some details for the hold wall here that look just like this. We are going to be cutting this off. We can dry brush this as well. I'm going to put some silver dry brush, I think, this time. So again, loaded my paintbrush up. And it's just got hardly any paint on at all. Just enough to make these details come up here. You get the idea. Looking like that. So let's snip this one off. And I'm going to be gluing that just into this little place here. So again, I only need to dot some glue just into this area. That can go in there. And then on this sprue here, I've got this detail which I want to cut off. This sprue looking like that. And in the same way, just dot some glue in there. And then drop that in this way, like that. Make sure that's seated perfectly in there. That's how that should look. Excellent. We just need to glue this inner section into place. That's how it's going to go as a dry fit. So again, I can just put some glue just around the edge here and press that in. And then finally, I can just put some glue around the inner edge of this. I think a brush on glue is makes your life a lot easier here. To put that bulkhead in that we just created, that's going around the inside. And you do want to make sure it fits flush, but there we go. That's what that corridor is looking like there. And that is all there is to do in that stage. So, the last stage we've got in this pack is stage 11. Put that to one side. Let's look for the magazine. No idea what we're doing. We've got some bits of frame by the look of it. But we are going to be, by the look of it, putting some detail on what we just created there. We're adding on to this door section. So by the end, it's going to be looking just like that. Pretty impressive, huh? So here's all the parts for stage 11. I don't actually think we need to open this, because everything we need is on the two sprues that we've got left here. This one and this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut off this pipe. What I'm going to do with this pipe, it's actually going to go into the second hole from the top there. But this side is just going to be going around the door. So it's going to be going kind of like that when we put this in. Now I don't need to glue this into place. I can just push this into the hole. And that will give that a little bit of wiggle room, but that's that pipe in there. I then want to take off this pipe from the sprue. And once again, it's the flat part that I'm going to be wanting to put into the hole just next to it here. Push that down so that the two pipes are actually tracing each other around the door like that. I now need this middle pipe here. Let's get that one out. And this time I will spot a little bit of glue in here, because that pipe, if I put some glue just at the top, is just going to go into this point at the top just here. It's going to sort of go round the door like that. Take off this pipe here. And this one's going to follow it just on the outside, so I am going to need to glue that one down. What I'm going to do, because I've got a brush, is I'm just going to put a light bit of glue just into some spots just here. It's going to be hidden by the pipe. Like that. Get this into position. Just like that. Excellent. Then I need this pipe. Let's get that one off. And again, we want some glue on this one, because I want to put some glue just on this edge here. Like that. And also just into this point at the end there. Because that's going to be going into the hole that we got here. And it's going to be sitting against the wall just like that there. Now this wall is eventually going to be going into this side of the dovetail here. So if I just push this in, 1 and 2, it sort of pushes in. And what you want to do is make sure that these pipes here will eventually just go into the holes just into that floor there. Now I haven't attached this wall yet. This is just to give you an idea of how that looks. But there you go. That is all there is to do in that stage. That's all there is to do in that pack. There was so much to do in that, but obviously this is how the internal section's starting to look. And there's so much stuff we haven't used here, so get yourself a box if you are following along with this to keep that safe. But I haven't attached any of these walls. We've only temporarily put the seat in just with 2 screws, but that is how that's looking like. I might add a little bit more muck and stuff to that base. So it's weathered up, but it needs to be a lot more weathered up. And I obviously still need to put in this, which I think I'll do quickly now. So this is just going to be going into the holes just here. Perfect. So that looks just like that. If you want to get this for yourself, I have put a link once again in the video description, and there's a QR code on the screen. But I really hope you liked that video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please remember to subscribe. Other than that, take care.